A new study reveals a jarring truth for baby boomers.
And baby boomers are working longer.
Jeopardize the financial security of tens of millions of people.
There are 73 million baby boomers in the US, and they'll all retire by 2030. But the unfortunate reality is that 43% of baby boomers have no retirement savings whatsoever. And now they're the fastest generation to become homeless or work forever. And yet despite this, there's this notion that baby boomers are the wealthiest generation. So what's really happening here? And what's happened to all their money? And sure, people have different goals for retirement. Some people want to travel the world and go on cruises. But regardless, retirement is possible because of the three-legged stool. And the three-legged stool is a term used in finance to describe the three common sources of retirement income. And the overall expectation is that these three together will provide a solid financial foundation for people in their golden years. But the problem is that those legs aren't very sturdy anymore. The first leg is personal savings. Over the course of 45 years in your career, you're expected to have grown a respectable size savings which you can withdraw from once you finally reach retirement age. But there's just one big problem. Most baby boomers financially aren't ready for retirement. 45% of boomers have no retirement savings according to the Federal Reserve Board. And it's estimated that 17 million people over the age of 65 are considered economically insecure. And of those that do have savings, baby boomers have on average $152,000 saved for retirement. And although $150,000 might seem a lot of money, it simply isn't. On average, adults between 65 and 74 spend $48,885 a year, meaning that the retirement savings of $150,000 will be gone sooner than later. With the rising cost of medical expenses for each week back and senior bowling league nights, it's easy to see that your retirement savings will disappear in less than 4 years. And baby boomers are becoming homeless at a rate not seen since the Great Depression. Many baby boomers across the country are now coming to terms with the unfortunate reality that working for your entire adult life is no longer enough to guarantee that you'll have a roof over your head in your later years. And all of this is in thanks in parts to a series of recessions and a shortage of affordable housing. And now, baby boomers finding retirement to be out of reach, as 17.3 million baby boomers are still working full-time jobs. And if personal savings are drying up, what about the next leg? Baby boomers can no longer simply rely on personal savings as a means of retirement. And that leads us to our second leg, Social Security. The Great Depression caused widespread unemployment and caused businesses to collapse, and following the outbreak, poverty among elderly grew dramatically. Estimates are that in 1934, half of elderly in America didn't have enough income to be self-supporting despite working 3/4 of their lives. And in response, President Roosevelt passed the Social Security Act in 1935 to create a social insurance program designed to pay retired workers ages 65 or older a continuing income after retirement. But of course in life, nothing is free. Employers would withhold or deduct a set amount of money and send it to the government. From every paycheck, a small amount of money was put in a Social Security fund. In return, current workers were promised that they would receive monthly checks from the fund when they retired. And this program worked. Americans could work and commit their lives to the economy, while older retired Americans could go ahead and play bocce ball at the park. And today, an average of 68 million Americans per month will receive a benefit of about 1.5 trillion in benefits paid during the year. Social Security is the #1 source of income for retirees, and now 90% of retirees receiving Social Security benefits. But there's a big problem here. Since 1983, every US president has borrowed from Social Security to pay for government expenditures. A war in Vietnam, a war in Iraq, tax cuts for the rich, trillions of dollars were taken out by Reagan, Clinton, and Bush. But the problem is that they never paid the money back, they just wrote IOUs in the form of treasury bonds. For decades, baby boomers were the largest generation of 73 million people, and they contributed to the Social Security fund so that the silent generation could retire and draw from. And now that baby boomers are retiring, they're starting to pull from that fund themselves. But the problem here is that there aren't as many workers paying into that fund, and it's projected that the Social Security fund will run dry by 2035. And the long-term projection is that the program will have a $13.6 trillion gap between how much money it takes in compared to how much money it pays out over the next 75 years. That means those receiving benefits would only receive 83% of their full benefit. For most Americans, Social Security is a vital public service, and nearly half of seniors count on security checks for at least 50% of their retirement income. And there are two main reasons why this is happening. First is the average life expectancy has increased. Social Security payouts work by providing elderly people with a steady stream of payments each month. As people start to live longer, it means that the government has to pay them out longer. thereby increasing the cost of spending and how much money the government pays out. And the second reason for the widening gap is that Americans are having less children. Social Security works by having the current working generation pay for the generation above them. If there's a lot less young people working, then there's less money going into the system. And that 2035 projection is based on a healthy economy, with everything growing progressively more expensive. $10 Big Macs or $6 Yas, that 2035 date might be sooner than later. But what about the next leg? Before we go into the last leg, if you're enjoying this video, please remember to like and subscribe. It'll help this channel tremendously. Thank you very much for your support. Until the 1980s, most Americans planned for retirement through pensions. Employers saved on workers' behalf and curated employee benefits based on their years of service and salary. Companies would set aside money for their employees, and employees would be guaranteed payouts once they retired. And this instilled and encouraged loyalty for employees to stay at a particular company. The longer you worked there, the more pension you would receive. But then things changed in 1978, after Congress passed a new tax code which allowed employers to move away from traditional pensions. And in came the 401k plan, which was just worse in every way. Companies would give you money, and you would choose where to put your hard-earned money, and if that money didn't grow, then that was your fault. And for companies, this was a much cheaper alternative with a lot less risk, so many axed pensions altogether and offered 401k plans to everyone. Employers were risk-free, and all the risk simply shifted to employees. From 1980 to 2008, pension plan participation dropped from 38% to 20% of the US workforce, while employees covered by plans like the 401k jumped 8% to 31%. But the problem is that a generation of people in the workforce who never invested before were given the reins for their future. While many people's 401ks grew over the decades that they worked, economic hardships in the late 2000s put a dent in many would-be retirees' savings. And the same could be said for the Great Recession, which was a main factor in depleting wealth and retirement savings. Very quickly, people who were on the verge of retirement were forced to make financial decisions and return to the workforce, put food on the table, a roof over their heads, because they lost everything. In 2024, 4.4 million people are expected to turn 65, which is about 12,000 people per day. And this is the largest number of people in US history to reach this milestone in a single year. Some people call it the silver tsunami or the peak 65, but the problem is 401k is being depleted. And even though the economy is more than recovering, Americans are tapping into the 401ks because of financial distress. The number of people who made a withdrawal out of hardship surged in 2023, a 36% increase from 2022. And not only that, Americans are living longer than ever. And this is because of better working conditions, hygiene, and healthcare. Today in 2024, the life expectancy is at 79 years. And that's a great thing. Who doesn't want to live a longer life, doing the things that they enjoy, with the people that they love? And life expectancy is only expected to increase over time. But more time also means more money from our employers, the government, and the economy. And it goes without saying that everything in our lives are more expensive than ever. Food prices, housing, and education. Americans are struggling to simply live, and younger generations are refusing to have kids because of the huge financial burden and responsibility that comes with being a parent. And the way our retirement structure works is that the next generation needs to be bigger and wealthier than the last in order to support them in their retirement. It's an endless cycle that always requires the younger generations to keep up. As we grow older, ideally and naturally, our expenses go down. We're able to make more money in our careers, pay off our debt from cars and mortgages. But the reality is that in addition to the high cost of living, all-time high rent, and food prices, retirees need to pay for medical bills. In 2020, retired baby boomers paid more than double in Medicare and Medicaid costs. A retired 65-year-old couple can anticipate healthcare costs of $315,000 out of pocket, according to Fidelity. Costs for baby boomers are expected to be high. Longer life expectancy, coupled with higher rates of obesity, diabetes, and high cholesterol, are putting a strain on health costs. The three-legged stool that is intended to support American retirement is wobbling. It's teetering. Social Security is depleting, 401k isn't keeping up with living costs, and the average boomer will burn through their savings sooner. Many are expected to work the rest of their lives, while others are becoming homeless at an alarmingly fast rate. But there is some hope, and that hope is on younger generations. But the problem is millennials and those in Gen Z don't have it any better. Housing affordability is at an all-time low, wage growth struggles to keep up with inflation, and many still own student debt. All of this, coupled with providing and supporting retired parents, is a lot. And one way to prepare for retirement is to take advantage of high-yield savings accounts, because right now you're probably missing out on free money. So click on the next video to see the best high-yield savings accounts to exponentially increase your wealth.
I wish I could retire. Boy, that'd be sweet.